Namaste viewers, welcome to one more episode of Sarees and More. We have a very special guest today, a dancer, a singer, a scholar, a researcher, a writer, a guest faculty, etc., etc., etc. I think she fits in the best in that caption, Dil Mange More, more and more. We welcome the one and only Swarnamalya Ganesh. Welcome to the show. I'm very happy to have you here.
Thank you so much.
I understand you started dancing or learning from the age of 3.
Yeah.
So when exactly did you feel that this is going to be my life, dance and music?
Obviously, as a 3-year-old, you don't really, you're not really thinking about a career or anything. As I said, I think sitting on my guru's lap and eating her breakfast and watching Akka's dance was really my induction into the life of a dancer. But somewhere between the age of, I think, 5 or 6 perhaps, I was so enamored by the glamour of the dance, of dressing well, of looking pretty, of knowing that there is something so beautiful that you can do. I think that's probably when somewhere in my mind I must have registered that this is what I want to do. But not as a career though. I think I just thought of it as this one thing that I wanted to become.
So as a career, as a professional career, when did that happen?
Of course, right after my Arangetram, I started performing a lot because my guru would say, you must perform on stage to gain that experience. So I was performing extensively, and it was not, I can't call it less competitive, but it was not filled with so many artists back then, and Kacheri would come to my gurus and she would sort of distribute opportunities in some sense in the early days. So I did perform a lot. I don't know if I was a professional at that time because I was a student, but I think somewhere when I was about 18 or so, I recognized that I was taking this more seriously, very, very seriously. And I was not just, I think what happened, when you become a professional, you're really acquiring other skills. Everything that's required to be a performing artist. I think that's probably when, so that's probably around 16, 17.
So it was a slow, gradual growth to realize that you can become a professional.
Gradual, yeah.
And fortunately, your gurus distributed the opportunities. That was one more thing.
Yes.
In that less competitive field.
Yeah, less of a rat race.
Yeah, less of a rat race. That's exactly what.
Yes.
Okay, when your literary journey, like allied dance, research, studies, and when was that entry?
So when I was about 14, I was dancing a kacheri in Mylapore Fine Arts Club, and Shri T.S. Parthasarathi, whom I call very affectionately as TSP Mama, had attended that kacheri to review it. He was still reviewing for the Indian Express. He was a very senior critic. I was shaking in my boots. But of course, I remember I performed Sadinchane, Anniki, Pancharatnam. And he came back, he wrote a good review, but he called me the next day and he said, do you know every word and its meaning? So I think I glazed over some of the meanings, but of course I didn't know all of it. So he said, come over. So I went with my parents. So there began my journey to realize that in order to be a complete dancer, one must appreciate the poetry, the literature. So it was a full, I was already musical, but the literature was not something that was highlighted for me. So TSP Mama played that pivotal role in my life. And I was also, I was learning with Venkatachalam sir from Rishi Valley. I was a Sanskrit student. So many things, and Tamil of course was in my family. So all of this was coming together for me. So it was only in my maybe 18, 19 when I started developing an interest in wanting to understand a little more about the tradition of my guru. And my guru was unbudging. She said, why do you want to talk about the past? Let's not talk about it. Right? So the minute she said that, I became even more curious. So I remember I went back to TSP Mama, and TSP Mama said, this is a journey you have to take on your own. Right? She can't help you and neither can I. So that's when I started thinking of research as a necessity for me to feel more complete. Not because I wanted to do a degree or anything. Those things were incidental for me. It was more to understand myself.
Yeah, actually it is mandatory to learn music and allied arts for a dancer,
Yes.
and vice versa.
Indeed.
Even as an accompanist, I tell people that you need to know the meaning to be more embellishful.
Correct.
So, when you go for teaching in different universities, you find different kinds of students.
Yeah.
So, how interesting or challenging it is to deal with them? I mean, they are they are very fast.
Yeah.
You have to teach them the way they understand.
Right.
So, how is it? How is it? I mean, the scene.
Teaching by itself is a learning experience. My guru again introduced me to teaching very young. I think when I was 12, 13, I was already teaching others in my class. And one of the things that she said is, whoever sits with the Tatakuchi, they are the guru, no matter how old or young. So ageism, she broke down ageism big time for us. So I was allowed to feel like I had a responsibility. So teaching began very early. I think the difference in a university setup though is you're not responsible for their entire learning curve.
Yeah, of course.
It's a smaller segment. You're teaching them a particular piece.
But it may spark a big fire in them.
Indeed, right? So you are, and they are also, there is a theoretical academic framework to what you're teaching. So it's very specific, very limited and specific. Adila, the advantage is that, your responsibilities are less in the sense, you are teaching them. They are meant to learn it, but you also set the goals. You say, okay, I'm teaching you, it's an embodiment class, you learn it. If you feel it, that's great. If you don't, you have to work on it. There ends your responsibility. But because they are varied students of different age groups, of different languages, different nationalities, as a teacher, I think what happens for me is I'm simplifying whatever I need to teach to its pulp. Sometimes I'm beating it to its pulp. I remember Rasa theory class once, the only example that was getting through was the example of how to make a 2-minute noodle Maggi. So I drew an entire board full of, what is the noodles and what is the vibhava and what is the Maggi masala. So I remember we came out of the class understanding the concept but also extremely hungry. But it's a great challenge.
Yeah, of course, you're also extremely hungry to do more and more. That's why
kind of hunger, yes.
Okay, you have been doing the Bharatanatyam, the evoluted from the Sadir over the years. So of late you have been concentrating on Sadir in that pure traditional style. So when did that happen? When did you feel that I should now go back to the roots and propagate it?
Yes. As I said, because I've learned with Sarasamma from the age of 3, I've always, in a sense, only learnt with the hereditary gurus. I've never had institutional training in dance. I mean, I've never been to Kalakshetra. Yeah, you can say that. So, these stories, the background of why Bharatanatyam is Sadir, this was always part of some conversations. But Tamil la solra mari ilai marevu kai marevana oru conversation in terms of with my guru. Like I said, she was unwilling to talk about some of the past. I mean, she said it's unnecessary, we've come far away and all that. But when I went looking back, then I learnt with the Tiruvalaputtur Kalyani granddaughters, and then the journey was already there, but I was still confused. In a sense, I was still calling it Bharatanatyam, I was still dancing. And then I met Muthukannamma, Virali Malai Muthukannamma. So I learnt with her for several years, at least 3-4 years. And then there was one Arangetram of my student for which the invitation proof had come. So Amma was with me in my school. I gave it to her and she said, oh, this is very nice, but why are you calling it Bharatanatyam? I said, what? Then she said, you've been dancing Sadir all your life and you're learning Sadir from me more decisively. Why should you call it Bharatanatyam? Isn't it fair?
This was told by that...
she told, Muthukannamma told me, she said, you must call it Sadir Arangetram. And it was like a jolt. Because often when she teaches, she would say, this is how we do it in our Sadir, this is how you do it in your Bharatanatyam. So it was like a slap on the face every time. So I told her, if I am learning from you, how am I a Bharatanatyam dancer? So idamari conversations would happen, but that day was a defining moment. She said, you should call this Sadir. And I said, are you sure? Right? Then she said, yes, because unless you are able to align your practice contextually to Sadir, of course we spoke in Tamil, she said, that's the only way you are learning what I am teaching you. Otherwise you're learning from what I'm teaching you what you like. That's not fair. That's what intelligent urban people do. She said, you should be truthful and learn what I teach, which is Sadir. So call it Sadir. So that was the moment.
And can you share some interesting anecdotes maybe while learning from her?
Oh yeah, I can, both from her.
Because it's the future generation must know about it. Because no more Devdasis.
I know, right? I can also share an anecdote with the Tiruvallaputtur Kalyani granddaughters. So baby sisters, as they are called. So now I had gone all the way to Kumbakonam knowing that they will be there because that's where they live. I stayed there for a whole week with my mother. They refused to see me because the reason being that they're very skeptical of people just coming, learning offhandedly and going away. This is an experience they've had. So the first time I went, they turned me out. They said they've gone to Gangaikonda Solapuram. They were sitting inside the house. Next day, they actually went to Gangaikonda Solapuram. Then they came back after 3 days. But I was persistent. And on the last day, my mother said, what are you doing? You've been sitting here for a whole week. It's not going to happen now. Maybe another time we'll come back. Maybe they need a little bit more time. So, ரொம்ப disappointed. I remember I was about to leave, and so every day I used to go to their house in a dance sari. Annikku I went in a salwar because I said I'm just going back home. So, போயிட்டு வரேன்னு சொல்றதுக்கு I went. They opened the door and they said, oh, you're the dancer, come in. I was stunned. So I went in and that is that Koodam where, because they are the daughters of Meenakshundaram Pillai, Padanallur Meenakshundaram Pillai. So that is that Koodam where their grandmothers and their mother and Ram Gopal and everybody has actually danced. So it was such a momentous moment for me. And very simply, அந்த சிறகுல ஒரு விசிறி இருந்தது. அது விசிறியோட காம்பு எடுத்து, then she said, அலாரி பாடு. I danced அலாரிப்பு. Then next thing I know, before I could catch my breath, she said, சரிம்மா பாடுங்க. Without even asking or checking if I can sing. Of course, thankfully I was. But then I sang வருகலாமோ. வருகலாமோ ஐயா. நான் பாடி முடிச்ச அப்புறம் she said, நல்லா இருக்கு, கச்சேரி மாதிரி பாடுறீங்க, இப்போ பரதநாட்டியத்துக்கு பாடுங்க. So defining moments, right? That even though I had learned with Panchapakesh Iyer Mama, who used to train us, and then Govindarao Mama subsequently and all that, I realized that their method in Sadir to sing a certain way is it's a stamp. அதை ஃப்ரெஷ்ஷாக அன்லேர்ன் பண்ணி ரீலேர்ன் பண்ணிக்கணும். ஸோ that was an experience. I mean, அந்த மாதிரி I had several, because I used to go every week to Kumbakonam to learn with them. Every weekend போயிடுவேன். And every Monday I'll come back. This was my routine for some years. And then Muthukannammal Amma, of course, I mean, I have so many anecdotes with her. Her and I mean, we've traveled so much. She's done Natvangam for me. But one defining moment is, Virali Malaila, even though we now, of course, she's more well known, Muthukannammal Amma, because papers have captured her and all that. But years ago, and the ஊர்ல nobody really, even though they knew her, they were respectful of her, but they never knew what a great treasure she is. And she is a treasure, right? So you need that recognition. Like if I'm living in Chennai as an artist, Chennai must recognize me. Otherwise, I don't feel identified. That was not happening. So I remember we spoke, and then she said, okay, you come and dance in the Arunagirinadhar festival. So I danced in the Arunagirinadhar festival, and I had invited the Pudukottai Raja and Maharani to come. When they came, and Amma was doing Natvangam for me, they came on the stage, and she belongs to the Samasthanam as a performer, as an artist. So it was a full circle to go back after some 50 years to for the same Samasthanam people to recognize her. And then we all took a group photograph. The village, for the first time, after I danced, they were able to understand that. Then Michael, I said, everything I've learned is from her. And they were stunned. They said, oh, we didn't know this party can teach so much. I said, you don't know what you're losing.
Yes.
So in the Mari, nariya anecdotes we have of brilliant experiences. Oh, and she's also extremely funny and great conversationist.
In fact, I remembered suddenly one more dancer, very reputed, senior scholar. She shared the same thing with me when she learned from a Devadasi. So there was this padam in which the dancer had to give pan to her husband or lover, whatever. Vettala kodukano. So she observed and she tried and asked her, எனக்கு இந்த மாதிரி வரலையே இப்படி. நான் சொல்றேன், have you ever really given pan to your husband? நிஜமாக கொடுத்தேன்னா கண்டிப்பாக இது மாதிரி வரும், கொடுத்து பாரு. ஸோ ஐ மீன் treasure தான்.
Art is a life, is life experiences for them. I can never pretend to be them. I never try. I'm not them. But அந்த நம்ம we say இல்ல, அந்த ஒரு பக்கத்துல இருக்கிற அந்த அசோசியேஷன், அந்த காத்து வீசும்ல, அந்த காத்து கொஞ்சம் பலமா வீசும், அவ்வளவுதான். அவ்வளவுதான்.
Dance has come through testing times and what not. I mean, it has evolved again and revived. And I feel it is again going through a testing time.
Yes. Yes.
Do you agree with me?
Totally.
Because of some mediocrity creeping in very drastically, and people calling themselves gurus, without unaware of the real meaning of a guru. So what do you have to tell about that, and how can we maybe stop it, or I mean make people, more and more people realize who are misguided?
So see, I think we live in a very democratic world where everybody has a fair chance at everything, and it should be so. So my thought is, instead of censoring and pointing fingers at what we believe is mediocre or what we think is below standard, first of all, I think we have to, my point of view is, we must first ask ourselves who is setting these standards, right? So when somebody like Muthukanamma says idu unga Bharatanatyam enga Sadir, she's naturally setting the standard of Sadir here and Bharatanatyam here, right? So from her point of view, the best of Bharatanatyam will still lack, right? So for her, that would be a mediocre. So for me, the idea of mediocrity is also something that I think each one of us have to set boundaries. And then because we live in a democratic space and social media has really opened the space for everybody, the only way is to fill that space with what we believe we want to share. And the more we share that, and if it's genuine, and if we are able to build, sir, at all times in history there have always been multiple aesthetics. To have a singular aesthetic and to expect everybody to fall in line, adu vandu both unrealistic and unfair. So my point is, there are many aesthetics. So if there is another aesthetic that doesn't fit our mind and point of view, better to forget about that and concentrate on what we like.
No, the pace. I'm more talking about the impatient pursuit.
Oh, that is, I mean, today we are in a Insta reel time, you know, where 1 minute is all you need.
And I mean,
YouTube is better because you still can decide your timing. But imagine I know so many reel artists, right? People who imagine that they are phenomenal dancers. Ennoda students say kuda, you know, I warn them that, you know, if in a 10-minute dance, say or a Pushpanjali, if you're able to master 50 seconds and if you're able to dance that very well for that reel, and people, you have 1,000 likes, you think you're an excellent Pushpanjali dancer, but you're not. You're an excellent 50 seconds of the Pushpanjali dancer. The rest of the 9 minutes, 10 seconds is gone. And you don't quite care because you've got your gratification. So this instant gratification is a problem.
they are misguided, obviously.
So are we. Sometimes namluko like vanda pudikkuda seiyirudhu. Only thing is, thankfully,
but you know what you did, no?
Yeah, that's all right. So thankfully, because we were a little before the reels generate, exactly, I think we learned the full 10 minutes.
Yeah. Sarees and More is the name of the show. So how can we not talk about sarees, your choices in any general, and for costumes?
Sure.
So let us know about your choices of sarees generally and for your costumes.
All kinds of sarees, really, like 9 to 19 solra madri. I have love for sarees that started very young. Because like I said, I used to look at all the akkas in my class, and the first thing that I wanted to do was dress like them, which is, saree was such a huge part of my life. I remember Geeta Chandran Akka and I, we met once in Baroda for something, and then, you know, we happened to be there at the same time. So we had lunch and then we went shopping. We were both buying a lot of things, beautiful sarees and everything. So then she said, "Oh my God, Swarna, I don't know why I'm buying so much." Then 2 seconds later she said, "But you know, we are connoisseurs of beautiful things." And we both laughed. But then that stuck with me. I said, that's a great excuse that I can have for myself as well. So I just hoard saris. I love beautiful saris, hand spun, hand woven. Silks, of course, are something that I cherish a lot. Heirloom, from my grandmother's sari to my mother's to mine. I just have like a variety of silk saris, a variety of cotton saris. So saris are a huge part of my life.
Okay, the difference in designing costume for Bharatanatyam and Sadar, is it very drastic difference, or I mean you can manage with a common kind of designing for both?
If one wants to really look at a specific Sadar kind of costume, then one may want to avoid, one may have to choose certain styles of saris. Banaras, Kanchivaram also, but with certain styles, romba modern colors choose Panama. But it's not wrong to have modern colors, frankly, but it's just that, it looks more, because a Sadar costume is less stitched. It's not like a pajama costume or anything. So we have a drape usually. So most of my saris are 10 yards. So I have a lot of pleats. So it's heavier. I wear a salla, then I wear a, so it really brings together fabrics that are like tissue and organza and malmal. These kinds of, other than silk, we also use these materials in our saris when we wear a typical Sadar costume. But in terms of I've done the whole range, because dance dramas, performance, so the whole range, I mean, I can literally or kadaiye vekkala avlo costumes, unfortunately or fortunately. I also give away my costumes both to my students and other younger dancers often. So எனக்கு இனிமே ஒரு ரெண்டு கச்சேரி after I wear it, if I feel like I've had enough of it, then I give it to students because they can use it then. Because costumes are expensive to make,
and of course,
lots of people
getting a costume, though used from my guru, is it's invaluable.
Yes, so I do that. But my sister and my mother are a huge part of both my sari and my costume. So they think I'm a mannequin. So எது வேணாலும் they can drape on me. My mother says you will wear anything, குத்தினாலும் பரவாயில்ல, கிழிச்சாலும் பரவாயில்ல. For I mean no pain no gain, right?
Yeah.
So I love the beauty of it. So I'll பொறுத்துப்பேன். அதனால they are huge part. They are the designers.
So they were your ready-made designers for saris.
Yeah, not just for saris but also the research behind that.
Yeah.